This happened about 2 years ago, and honestly, I still don't know how to explain any of it. My wife and I are both photographers. We work from home most of the time, which means we spend a lot of hours in our loft. When we first moved in, we decided to go all out with the smart home setup. I'm talking smart LED strip lights in every room, security cameras covering every angle, voice-controlled thermostats, smart locks, the whole 9 yards. We even installed these fancy smart closets with automated locks that you could control from your phone. At the time, it felt like we were living in the future. Everything was connected. Everything was convenient. You could control the entire house from your phone, or just by speaking out loud. It was the kind of setup people see on YouTube and say, "That's so cool. I wish I had that." Trust me, you don't. We had been fostering a young girl for about 8 months before she was placed with a permanent family. It was bittersweet, but we were happy she found a stable home. The day after she left, I woke up earlier than usual. My wife was still asleep, so I figured I'd go check on the empty room. Maybe start thinking about how we'd use the space going forward. When I opened the door, I stopped dead in my tracks. Every single light in the room was on. The overhead light, the desk lamp, the LED strips that ran along the ceiling, all of them glowing bright, but not in the normal white color we had set them to. They were this deep, unsettling red, almost like the room was drenched in blood. I stood there for a second, just staring. My first thought was that maybe there had been a power glitch overnight. Smart devices act weird sometimes after outages. That had to be it. I pulled out my phone and turned everything off manually, then went about my day. That night, things got stranger. My wife and I were sitting in the living room watching TV when we heard a loud bang from upstairs. It sounded like a door slamming. We both looked at each other, and I could tell she was thinking the same thing I was. We live alone. There's no one else in this house. I grabbed a flashlight and went upstairs to check. Nothing was out of place. The doors were all closed. The windows were locked. I convinced myself it was just the house settling. Old buildings make noise, right? That's normal. But then it happened again the next night. And the night after that, it wasn't just banging anymore. We started hearing footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming from the empty bedroom. The room that used to belong to our foster daughter. I would lie in bed at night, completely still, just listening. The footsteps would start near the door, cross the room, and then stop every single night. I'm not a superstitious person. I don't believe in ghosts or spirits or any of that stuff, but I couldn't explain what was happening, and that scared me more than anything. One evening, I decided to do a little experiment. I went into the room, made sure all the lights were off, and locked the smart closets using the app on my phone. I watched the screen confirm that both locks were engaged. Then I walked out, closed the door behind me, and sat in the hallway, just waiting. 40 seconds, that's all it took. I heard the locks click, both of them. I opened the door, and both cabinet doors were wide open. Not just unlocked, wide open, like someone had swung them outward with force. My wife was standing behind me at that point. I didn't even hear her come up the stairs. She just looked at the cabinets, then looked at me and said, "We need to do something about this." So we did what anyone would do, I guess. We bought sage. I know it sounds ridiculous, but we were desperate. We burned it in every room, especially the bedroom. For a few hours, everything seemed calm. Then around midnight, the activity exploded. The footsteps were louder than ever. We heard cabinets rattling, doors opening and closing on their own. At one point, I swear I heard something pacing back and forth in the hallway, right outside our bedroom door. My wife was crying. I was holding a baseball bat, ready to swing at absolutely nothing. We didn't sleep that night. The next morning, we started packing. We moved out 3 weeks later. I don't care how crazy it sounds. I know what we heard. I know what we saw. Something was in that house, and it was using our own technology to mess with us. The lights, the locks, the cameras, all of it was connected, and whatever was there knew exactly how to control it. I still have the footage from some of our security cameras. I've watched it back 100 times. There's nothing visible, no shadows, no figures, just doors opening by themselves and lights flickering on and off in the middle of the night. We never figured out what it was, but I'll tell you this, I don't have a single smart device in my new home. Not one, and I never will again. I'm going to tell you something that still gives me chills every time I think about it. This happened about a year ago at my grandmother's house. My grandma is in her late 70s. She lives alone in this small house in a quiet neighborhood. A few years back, my mom bought her an Alexa so she could play music, set reminders, and have some company when no one was around. Grandma loved it. She talked to that thing like it was a real person. I was staying with her for the weekend to help out with some chores around the house. It was a pretty normal visit. We had dinner, watched some TV, and she went to bed around 9 like she always does. I stayed up a little later, just scrolling on my phone in the living room. The house was quiet. The only light on was the small lamp next to the couch. Alexa was sitting on the shelf across the room, the little blue ring dark and silent. That's when it happened. Out of nowhere, Alexa lit up. The blue ring started spinning, and then music started playing. But it wasn't normal music. It was this slow, eerie religious hymn. The kind of thing you'd hear in an old church, except it sounded distorted, almost like it was being played backward. I sat up immediately. I hadn't said anything. My grandma was asleep. There was no reason for Alexa to activate. I said, "Alexa, stop." The music stopped. The ring went dark. I waited a few seconds, my heart beating fast. Then, just as I was about to relax, Alexa lit up again. And it laughed. I'm not talking about a normal laugh. This was deep, guttural, almost demonic. It lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. I've never heard Alexa make a sound like that before or since. It didn't sound like any voice option or skill I've ever heard. I practically threw myself across the room and unplugged it from the wall. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I told my grandma what happened. She just nodded slowly and said, "That's not the first time it's done something strange." Apparently, a few weeks before my visit, she had come home late from a doctor's appointment. The house was completely dark. She walked in, set her keys down, and before she could even turn on the lights, Alexa spoke. It said, "I knew you'd be back." Not in the normal Alexa voice, in this sing-song, almost cheerful tone, like a child teasing you. My grandma said it sounded human, not robotic at all. She didn't tell anyone because she thought she was imagining things. But the creepiest part came a few days after my visit. My grandma called me, sounding really shaken. She said she was sitting in the living room, not talking to anyone, when Alexa suddenly asked her a question. It said, "Why is the black cat on your shoulder?" My grandma has 2 cats. One of them is black. But here's the thing. The black cat wasn't on her shoulder. It wasn't even in the room. It was outside on the porch. She asked Alexa what it meant, but it didn't respond. It just went silent. After that, my mom had someone come look at the house. Not a technician, a medium. I know how that sounds, but we didn't know what else to do. The medium walked through every room, spent about 20 minutes in the living room near the Alexa, and then told us something I'll never forget. She said there was a presence attached to the device. Not the house, the device. She said it was like a spirit had found a way inside and was using it to communicate. We threw the Alexa away that same day. I don't know what was happening in that house. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe it was something else. But I know what I heard that night. And I know my grandma wouldn't lie about something like this. Some things just can't be explained. This last story didn't happen to me, but to a friend of mine. She's given me permission to share it, but I'm going to keep her name out of it for privacy. She's a single mom with a 7-year-old daughter. They live in a small apartment in the suburbs. Like most families, they have an Alexa in the living room. Her daughter loves it. She uses it to play songs, ask random questions, and sometimes just talk to it when she's bored. One night, my friend had to run out to grab something from the store. It was a quick trip, maybe 15 minutes. Her daughter was watching cartoon and seemed perfectly fine being alone for a bit. She kissed her goodbye, told her not to open the door for anyone, and left. When she got back, something was wrong. Her daughter was sitting on the couch, completely silent. No TV, no music, just sitting there, staring at the Alexa on the shelf. My friend asked her what happened. At first, her daughter didn't want to talk. She just kept shaking her head and saying, "It scared me." After a few minutes, she finally explained. While my friend was gone, her daughter had asked Alexa to play a song, something she did every day. But this time, Alexa didn't respond normally. Instead of the usual cheerful voice, Alexa answered in a deep, distorted tone, almost like a growl. The daughter said it sounded like a monster pretending to be Alexa. It said the name of the song in this slow, creepy way, and then just went silent. Her daughter was so scared she didn't move for the rest of the time her mom was gone. She just sat there, watching the device, terrified it would speak again. My friend didn't believe her at first. She figured her daughter had just gotten spooked by a weird glitch, or misheard something. But then, a few nights later, it happened again. This time, my friend was home. It was her daughter's birthday. They had a small celebration, just the two of them. At the end of the night, her daughter asked Alexa to sing "Happy Birthday." Alexa started singing, normal voice, normal melody. But when it got to her daughter's name, the voice changed. It dropped several octaves. The name came out slow and distorted, almost demonic, like something was mocking them. My friend immediately unplugged the device. Her daughter started crying. She kept saying, "It knows my name. It knows my name." They haven't used an Alexa since. My friend told me that for weeks after, her daughter would wake up in the middle of the night, convinced she heard something whispering in the living room. She'd come running into her mom's bed, too scared to go back to her own room. The incident stopped, but the damage was done. Her daughter refuses to be in the same room as any smart speaker. Even at other people's houses, she gets visibly uncomfortable. I've heard people say that these devices are always listening, that they're recording everything we say. But after hearing what happened to my friend and her daughter, I wonder if something else is listening too, something that shouldn't be there. I don't have answers. None of us do. But if you have smart devices in your home, maybe pay a little more attention to them, because sometimes when they speak, it's not the voice you programmed. It's something else entirely.